On today's episode, we welcome Tristan de Frondeville from SkyCentrics. Tristan, welcome.
Thank you.
So, Tristan, can you walk us through your background and why you started SkyCentrics?
Sure. My background is eclectic. I got a degree in mathematics and managed software teams. And we noticed that thermostats, back then there was just a round one on the wall. Actually, that Honeywell thermostat is in the Smithsonian. It's so classic. But everybody wanted connected devices. So we worked on a connected thermostat. And now we're connecting to all the machines in buildings. And we specialize in something called grid signals. And that's what was our original background. Utilities really want to be able to send signals to machines so they use more energy when the grid is clean and inexpensive, and less energy when the grid is dirty and expensive. But in that process, we learned how to connect to all the machines in buildings, and we discovered, especially in commercial buildings, that building owners don't have good solutions to inexpensively see all the machines in their buildings in one place. So that's our focus now.
And for someone who doesn't really understand like building, like commercial building and everything that connects to it, how would you explain to them like what you guys are solving or what you guys are doing for them?
Sure. So I think most people might be familiar with the model, the early model of the Internet of Things for their homes, right? So you had a door lock from maybe a company called August, now Ring, maybe. You had a garage door opener that was connected. Maybe you had some lights that were connected. And if you were leaving for the weekend, you had to tell the person in the passenger seat, hey, go to every app on the phone and turn everything off one by one. So we call those siloed, um, independent systems. And then, of course, the universal remote for homes became your voice. So Google, Apple, and Amazon are now your remote universal voice control for your home. Well, there's nothing like that in buildings except very expensive solutions that maybe really focus on HVAC and thermostats historically. Your elevators, your door lock systems, your EV chargers, your solar on your roof, your battery system, all these other systems in a building are not going through your building management system. Siemens, Johnson Controls, Schneider, those have historically been focused on HVAC. They've been trying to tell people, hey, put your other systems into our system. After all, it's called a building management system, but it's 60-year-old technology and it's expensive, proprietary, and no one wants to do that. So we're putting in a box that's like the Google, Amazon voice control, except we don't need voice control. We just need it to be up on a web browser so that you can see all the systems in your building in one place. And obviously, that's what you need to be able to get grid signals to them. It's also what you need to be able to better manage your building. And once you have all that data, then AI can get involved.
Mm.
What we
And
know for the
how
last 3 years is AI can't get involved without data, and nobody's been getting data from buildings. Less than 2% of commercial buildings are connected outside the building. So, huge black hole of no data. We're getting all the data.
and before you guys service our systems, how would they actually manage all those different systems that you just mentioned, like the elevator, the thermal pump, like everything? How it was it all different businesses that take care of all different section of the building, or was it one big management? How was it working before you guys?
So, number one, you're right. If you go to a operations center of a big building, you'll see 10 computer screens because they have to go to each one to look at something. Uh, and then I think the other thing that's important about your question, how are things being done right now, is that they also, so not only is it different computer screens looking at different systems, there's one other aspect that I'm forgetting right now, but it'll come to me.
So it's basically all separate. It's not just one person at one time that can take care of all of it from what
You
you guys are doing.
you absolutely can't see everything in one place, and you can't see it from the internet in one place. So you literally have to VPN in virtual private network into every system like you're dialing up.
And from your perspective, why was that modernizations of this system took so long? Because you mentioned, I think the system was like 60-year old from our podcast before this. Why was there no changes in that kind of industry? Did you kind of know why people wouldn't move to something new?
It's a very conservative industry. If you think about it, it turns out that uh, you know, owning a large building or a set of buildings is what high net worth families do now. If you want, legacy wealth for your family, you buy buildings and you rent them out. And it's a very conservative field. And the Internet of Things. Oh, at the same time, so you know how in China they skipped over landlines. By the time they were building buildings in the big growth of the last 20 years of China, they just said, well, why are we putting in landlines? Everybody has a cell phone. So they just skipped over landlines. And the history of buildings is that they were early adopters of the Internet of Things. The first 10-story building in the 1800s had to have some way of telling the boiler in the basement that the 10th floor was cold and needed more heat. There was barely electricity, so they used compressed air. There's still buildings on Sandhill Road where all the venture capital offices are that have compressed air thermostats from the 50s. And then in the 60s, they said, hey, there's this thing called electricity. Maybe we should use electricity. So imagine trying to make machine to machine communication in the 60s that was using electricity. So it both shows you the early adopter of the commercial building space, they needed solutions, but also how long it takes before they try new solutions. Right now, there's 40 years of pent up owner frustration of not having good solutions. All these owners of buildings have their homes completely Internet of Things and networked, and they're like, well, I can see my home on my phone. Why can't I see my building?
And that's one question I had in my mind. Like for you guys, clients, or even for those building, do you try to connect with the owner of the building, which usually could just be someone that own it, like you just mentioned, a family that just bought it and then renting it, or do you go to that business that it's in the building directly? Like who do you t- make deals with for those kind of situations?
Yeah, sure. So who's the customer who writes the check, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, obviously, we're bringing such an exciting new solution to market that is 10 times less expensive, has 10 times more functionality, and is blessed by the Linux Foundation, which in June absorbed the Coalition for Smarter Buildings to basically create Linux for buildings, which is very exciting because what are the frustrations of the building owners? It's expensive. It often only works for HVAC. It's proprietary, not open. If you have a Siemens system, it doesn't talk to a Johnson Controls system, and it only focuses most of the time on HVAC. So the Linux Foundation really opens up to say, look, this is the world's largest open source community, and we're doing things in an open source, open standard way. We all know that's better for cybersecurity, which is a concern for building owners, and it's also better for more functionality, more faster. So you asked, so who's the customer who writes the check? Yes, we can do things with building owners, but it's such an exciting new solution that we want to go for building owners who own a lot of buildings. So that's universities, school districts. We
Okay.
want to go for people who provide services to millions and billions of square feet of buildings. So there's very large engineering firms that are regularly hired by building owners to do things put either a new building or a new system for an old building. And those engineering firms are starting to put our system in their headquarters. They've been testing it out, and they're ready to roll it out to their building owner customers and say, hey, this is a new, incredible way to manage your buildings. So obviously, we're focused on scale. It's a fairly unique solution, super exciting, and that's why we're going after the big elephants, as you say.
And when you modernize those buildings, if they have like an older legacy system, like you mentioned, how do you get to implement your system without like breaking that? Or if you just actually rip out and put a new stuff into it, how do you manage that?
So that's a really good question. Is it rip and replace versus plug and play? And there are a few startups bragging about AI for buildings, and it's all about rip and replace. And we literally take our little Super Skybox. It's a Linux computer right here. It's this big. 500 bucks. You can put it. We have one building that's on our website. You can see the case study. It's a PAE engineering building headquarters in Portland, Oregon. One box, all the systems in the building, solar, battery, etc. However, these boxes are so inexpensive, $500, that some of our engineering companies say, you know what, I have a 4-story building. The PAE building was only 5 years old, so they brought everything down to be wired in their network closet. But I have solar on the roof. I have a boiler in the basement. I want to put one box on the roof and one box in the basement because drilling a hole from the roof to the basement is going to cost me more than another $500 box.
So,
So it's
and do you,
plug and play, and we discover all your machines and systems, bring the data to the box, bring the data to the cloud, and it's a two-way system. So we can send grid control signals, scheduling signals, weather optimization signals back to the machines as well.
and do you have to like talk with all, because you mentioned HVAC and maybe plumbing or everything eating in the building, do you have to like then contact those building to have access to their systems, or is just really you just go there and then you plug it and you just work with it?
Well, it's impossible to do anything without permission from the building, right? And when you get permission from the building owner or the building manager, then obviously they have those weird siloed systems to get into, right? The lucky thing is that back in 1965, when they stopped using compressed air and shifted to electricity, they did invent pre-internet, back when we had calculators with one little red line on it, they did invent languages that these machines could talk. So those are called Modbus, BACnet, and LON, LON. So the good news is every machine and system just about in the building talks at least one of those languages. So they talk that language, and our Linux computer has translators in there that talks those languages. That's a little bit of the magic. We also made it super easy to discover the points on these old serial networks. They're not TCP/IP internet networks, they're serial. And we made it so that we have a discovery process where we discover all the machines and systems with one click. So you install it, you connect it so that it's wired onto those networks and or serial buses, to be clear, and then you click a button on a web page on our device and it finds all the data and control points of your machines and your systems.
And what is kind of like the easier for you guys? Is it more of the plug and play old building, or is it more of the like new building where you just pretty much put everything in and just put the box and then plug directly? Is there like an easier path for you guys to go with?
Yeah, we actually are happy to do either one, but I think if you think about it, in especially in America, Canada, Europe, there's not a lot of new construction going on as opposed to Asia, China, even Africa. So, we're super happy that it's plug and play, put it into any building, especially the old buildings, and start getting visibility and management of your buildings. The national labs in the United States have said if you can commission or tune a building uh, one time, It takes you a year and a half to pay for the commissioning. And if you do it every 5 years, you get 3.5 years of profit from your tuning up of a building. Most
Hmm.
buildings in America get tuned when they're built. And then for 50 years, they're not tuned at all. They just run break fix models. So imagine buying a car and you never tune it up. You just wait till it breaks and then you fix it. That's pretty much what's going on right now.
And that was like my next question. How do actually the AI bring on, with all that data, like brings ROI to those owners? How do you uh, put that numbers for them to actually be like, it's logical to do this now? And we understand what AI does and how it uses all the data to bring on that new budget or that economy on what it's costing per month.
Well, the good news is it's not like we're creating a market. Okay. So the building owners have had these expensive solutions to do some of these things. And because they're so expensive and proprietary, they have only penetrated 15% of the US market. After 50 years, 15% of the US market. So 85% of buildings, aha, this was the other question you asked early on, which was, um, 85% of buildings uh, don't have a building management system. So you asked, how are the machines sort of managed now if they don't have a system to manage them? Well, Daikin, Fujitsu, Mitsubishi, Carrier, York, all the big iron equipment manufacturers for buildings, you go to those machines and they're in the 85% of buildings with no building management system, and there's a little screen with menus, and you have to set your machine to say, hey, make hot water at this temperature, do this, and then you set and forget it. And meanwhile, the modern machines have all these sensors about, hey, here's an alert, I'm not working as efficiently. Well, they're not connected, so nobody sees those alerts until 6 months later when they go by the machine with a little notebook to check on it. That's how kind of pathetic things are. So I'm glad I remembered that point. You may have a follow-up question.
And then coming back for the ROI question, so you just mentioned like that maybe that system is now running too much for eating, and then the other HVAC is not connected to it, so it's running for water for something else. And then if they're talking, then they can know when one is supposed to work and the other one's not supposed to work, and that's how it's pretty much gonna save budget per month with only your plug and play at $500 that just make that
Yeah.
happen.
So look, the ROI story is still rapidly developing. We put our first super skybox in a building 6 months ago. Within a month, right, we have a heat map where you can take any data point and you can look at a month of data from midnight to midnight. So they had a battery system. It was a 5-year-old building. Again, it's that PAE building. And they looked at the heat map for a month. And instead of that battery charging at night and discharging during the day when electricity is expensive, at night it's cheap, they discovered that their battery was sort of barely doing either. It was just staying uncharged most of the time and not helping them reduce their costs. So that was an instant savings, right? Visibility, oh, something's wrong. And it also shows how infrequently people are really seeing data from their buildings. Um, Obviously, the other things that we're going to, so no matter what, people know that if they can see their systems in their building, they're going to be able to better manage their building. The national labs have said between 30 to 50% of your operational cost of a building could be saved if you had real-time visibility onto your building, let alone orchestrated management to your grid price, to your weather, so the building starts at the right time. Here's something called optimum start. Right now, because it's so difficult to change schedules in buildings, they pick the coldest day of the year and then they make sure the building starts at that time to be warm enough for people to walk in at 8 or 9 in the morning. And then all the other days of the year that it's not as cold, your building is starting early and being fully heated by 6 or 7 in the morning instead of 8 or 9 in the morning. So there's all these things that you can do once you have easy access to the grid, weather, etc. Now, you also asked about the ROI of how do you apply AI to this. So right now, You aren't getting data from the machines, and you also aren't having easy ways to look at how a building was constructed, all of the design documents, all of the documents. So we absorb the documents, people upload them onto our platform for their building. All the engineers or any facilities manager has all this documentation. They just upload it to our platform, and then our large language model, specifically written from an open source system for that building, for buildings in general, makes a natural language query like ChatGPT for all your documents and all your sensor and data and control points in your building. So you can say things like, what's the Modbus point for the thermostat in room 202? When we've worked with building engineers, sometimes it takes them 10 minutes to find that information looking through documents. Now they can type a query and we answer it in 5 seconds.
Nice. That's pretty awesome. So is there any cloud buildings that we know? You mentioned China kind of went into that direction, not too soon or yearly enough. Is there any cloud building that we know in United States, Canada, or is that just a new technology all by itself?
So I think what you're saying is, are there cloud connected buildings? So less than 2% of American commercial buildings are connected outside the building. So there absolutely are cloud connected buildings.
Okay, that's nice. And those buildings, is there any? Is you guys just bring the same system just to other building, or are those like super expensive, like you mentioned, from other businesses? What's the big
Those
difference?
cloud connected, those 2% of buildings are the AAA, super expensive buildings, and they are paying the incumbent 50, 60-year-old technology. In the case of Tritium, which is kind of the standard, it's by Honeywell. They started their solution in 1995. Old solutions, expensive, not made for internet data, not made for AI. We're using open standards, Linux Foundation tools to make a tech stack that is modern. If you're not choosing our tech stack, you're basically looking at a 30 or a 50-year-old tech stack.
And how do owners of those buildings react to your system when you present it to them? Are they surprised? Are they open to it? Are they a bit scared? Like, what's the openness to that technology?
So we demonstrated our system right before Christmas to an engineering company that has 6,000 employees and manages 5 billion square feet. And at some point they asked, that closing question that we all love to hear. How much does it cost? And we told them it was $500 for the Super Skybox. You can see the pricing on our website. For $200 a month, you get cellular access and 50 of those skyboxes on one subscription for $200 a month. And they laughed. They said, so it's under $1,000. Typically, the solutions they're looking at right now are $15,000 to $25,000 just to roll the truck.
So it's always like a new way, a new era. They click for them. It's like, wow, I can have all this for this price, and it's I'm just getting overpriced for all the other technology now, basically.
You're getting more functionality, able to connect to all the systems, not just HVAC, at a tenth of the cost, and a modern stack. And the Linux Foundation, I mean, we're working with multi-vendor solutions. So our platform, you can add apps. We've already added one third-party app. We have partners that are writing apps that either live. Sometimes we put an AI chip in here, like an NVIDIA chip, but they're expensive. So there's other AI chips. So we do AI and apps inside the box as well as up in the cloud, and we're creating a world. Imagine this: you're too young, Maxime, but when I went to school, and people my age, to go to college, you went to the computer room and went to a typewriter with a screen, and it was a mainframe computer that fed you the app that you were using on the screen. And there were probably only 10,000 people in the world who could write a mainframe computer app, and they were employees of IBM and DEC and others. And obviously that meant there was limited apps. And then it went to desktop, and suddenly you had hundreds of thousands of people who could write apps. And then it went to mobile phones, and your brother's nephew, who's 12 years old, is writing apps for the mobile phone. So
Yeah.
as we have apps developed for something, you get incredible innovation. So
Mhm.
we're taking this old, essentially analog vertical market of commercial buildings that are living in this ancient world, and we're bringing them to a modern world where there's going to be so much innovation writing apps for our platform. You know, we'd like to think ambitiously that we can be the Salesforce for commercial buildings and literally have an app store of apps for commercial buildings.
That's a great vision. So for the business right now, is there something that's working well that you guys maybe plan or didn't plan? What's going well for the business as of today?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Um, I've worked, the colleagues I work with have been in the commercial building business for 30 years. I came from a technology and mathematics side. Uh, they have predicted the situation. They used to work for Johnson Controls, and they came to me and said, Tristan, you've built something that we can use for commercial buildings, and they've taught me all about this. So I'm not being surprised. I think the the biggest surprise and the biggest new thing is last 2 years, all of a sudden AI can help. And AI only can help if you're getting data from things. And nobody's gotten the data in a modern tech stack up to the cloud for AI digestion, let alone onto a Linux computer from buildings. So, I was surprised by how AI is supercharging our story. And if you think about it, everybody's trying to figure out how to apply AI to things. But buildings are super easy to apply AI to. The only controls you need for most things in a building are on off, lights, motors, pumps, 0 to 100% because you want to dim lights, or you have a variable speed motor and you want it to 0 to 100%, or the thermostat. And the thermostat's the most complicated thing because you have fan speed, temperature set point, mode, are you heating or cooling? And that's it. If you can turn things on and off, if you can reduce their energy or increase it 0 to 100%, or open a door 50%, 60%, or you have HVAC thermostat settings, that's it.
And just like you mentioned, you only need that data to actually do all of that. And it's not that complicated, especially with all the new thermostat that already have all the display on it. You just put that in your chat GPT. And I feel like with all the conversations that I have, it's like people always want the AI and always forget that you actually need data for a good AI because they're just like, give me AI. And then you can just put an LLM and then it's going to do what you need. You need actually stuff to put into it to do the job that you want, which you guys are doing with all the data from that building and then doing it to the AI to actually do something.
Yeah, and it's especially true for being able to prevent the AI from hallucinating. I really enjoyed using ChatGPT, but I just tried to fix my dishwasher, gave it the model number, and it sent me the wrong part. I ordered the part. I'm like, that's not the matching part. What are you talking about? And you tell this ChatGPT, you're hallucinating again. So the nice thing about buildings is, right, we can take these open source models and solutions in AI that are rapidly proliferating in power, and then we can narrow the scope so that it's very controllable. It doesn't have to be generative AI, right? It just has to be focused on buildings and the documents of the building and the machine manuals of the building. It's a much more narrow space. And we like to say, keeping the human in the loop, right? So the AI makes suggestions. Initially, it's smart humans that review them. So nobody's getting blindsided by hallucinations.
Yeah, for sure. At least for now. Maybe in the future the AI is gonna move
Yeah,
and do better.
absolutely.
But for now,
Well,
we need that
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. As Reagan said, not my favorite guy, but he did say, "Trust but verify." That's
Yeah,
one line I got from Reagan. So trust but
always.
verify. Right now, we're verifying for sure.
Absolutely. So what's one of the biggest challenge of the business as of today on the other part?
Yeah. Right now, it's hiring AI people. They're pretty in demand. And so that's one challenge. I think the other challenge is building out that AI. There's so much to do right now that we'd love to be, we know what we want to build, but we're not building it as fast as we'd like. But it's super exciting what we've built already.
Hmm. So I thought that just brought me a question. In the business, you're the CEO or founder, right? So what's your role in that business? Are you still the IT guy or still hands-on into the technology, or you're more vision, decision making? What's your role in that business?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, I've been lucky enough to have a fabulous CTO, technology
Okay.
founder. I
Nice.
am not the technologist. I've dabbled in the past writing code, but it's definitely not me.
Yeah.
So I'm the sales guy, and I have to decide on yes or no questions. CEOs have to be good at decisions with incomplete information. That's one of the most important things, and you're not going to make good decisions every single time. So you have to live with the bad ones and forgive yourself. So that's mostly what I spend my day doing, forgiving myself for bad decisions.
Nice. So what's the big vision for SkyCentric for the next 6 to 12 months for 2026?
Yeah, no, we're super excited in terms of selling through channels so that we can scale this really quickly. Buildings represent 35% of the world's energy and 35% of the world's carbon emissions. We think we can do at least 10% reduction on energy and carbon emissions, as well as a lot of other value propositions. But those are pretty exciting, right? If you want to give something to your kids and look at them in the eyes and say, hey, I did something with my time on this planet, reducing carbon emissions by 10%, sorry. 10% of 35% is 3.5%. If I can scale this and reduce the world's energy and carbon emission use by 3.5% minimum, that would be great.
And do you have any goals of like maybe having more building this year, or that's like a 5 year plan? What does it look like for the system coming into new buildings?
Oh, we want 10,000 buildings by the end of this year.
Oh, goddamn. That's a that big plan. So if it works, you'll get that 3.5% pretty quickly then.
Oh yeah, no, hey, all you got to do is buy a box, put it in your building, and start orchestrating and
Doing it.
managing your building better. And we're not installing the box. We're not even selling the box. It's our partners, these people that have 6, 10, 15,000 employees managing millions and billions of square feet, who finally have an incredible solution to present to their customers, the building owners. They're the ones installing it, servicing it. it's all it's all ready to scale.
Huh. So whenever they get called for HVAC, they can just bring your box with it and then just do all they want. Huh. That's really nice. So you just have to find that guy that actually do all of it, and then you just patch your systems to it. That's awesome. So for listeners who wants to learn more about SkyCentric or maybe reach you, where should they go?
Info at skycentrics.com is our standard receiving email for how to get more information, info at skycentrics.com. I think we still publish our phone number, so if you can find it on our website, give us a call.
There you go. So thanks again, Tristan. That was a super great conversation.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.